Hi, my name is Crash Reed, and I'm a lead UX designer on World of Warcraft.
Hey, my name's Darren Williams. I'm an associate technical director on World of Warcraft.
Lots to unpack here with the War Within. Almost too much. I want to start in Warbands, actually. This is a really cool feature that you're introducing for the first time that gives kind of alts a bigger purpose than just sitting in Stormwind or being a mobile bank. Talk about how the Warbands will work with your alts, it's specifically with bind items, like binds on equip, binds on accounts.
Yeah, so the binds on equipped, we're calling that Warbound, and something that's Warbound will let you go into a dungeon. Let's say I'm playing as my shaman, and I play a shaman and a warrior because it's my tank, so I can go in, and if plate drops for me, now that can be Warbound, something that it'll be bound to my tank, so I can trade that with them, and then I give that to my tank as opposed to being locked in the raid or the dungeon with the group that's in there. So now I have this ability to go in and do stuff and make meaningful progression with my own alts too, with my warband, which I think is pretty amazing.
There's Warbind on equip. Some items will be designated as that. So when you get a Warbind on equip item, that once you've equipped it, it becomes Warbound. Another piece of this, kind of related, is the transmog, so really excited about that. So my warband, I can go with my plate, my Fury Warrior, run old legacy dungeons and get the cloth, get the leather. My Druid, it was one of my favorite characters, my Zandalari Druid, but I've mained my Fury Warrior for a long time, so I'm excited I'll be collecting things for them, and I'll be able to contribute reputation, have that shared bank. Well, just Warband is like so much quality of life stuff for people to play how they'd like to play, and I can still play a lot of my main, which I'm gonna be my Fury Warrior for life. I know that since I found them.
Yeah, you spoke that in the presentation that you're now gonna have like reputation will now be shared across all of your alts. Now, is that faction specific, and is there a limit on how many alts that's shared with, or is it just as many alts as you're allowed in the game?
It will. So it'll be shared with pretty much all of your alts. So anything that would be shared across all of the alts. There will be some reputation, but achievements that might be very specific to a character, but even that is very minimized. Most of them will be shared across your warband.
Even if it's Horde and Alliance?
That's a good question. I would say that a good portion of them would be as well, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, I think something else, if you saw the deep dive today that Ian mentioned, a lot of things are going cross-realm as well. So cross-realm and cross-faction, including guilds, so that's pretty cool, right? So, if you've got a warband and it's got Alliance and Horde characters in, they can be in the same guild as well. It's really cool. I think almost all the new reputations will be totally across your warband, including cross-faction. But like Crash said, there might be some that are still per character.
The technology behind this game has evolved so tremendously over this last decade. You guys have now mega servers now, basically, people transitioning onto their own private world instances. But now you're doing even a step further. You have like almost seamless loading as you fly into a zone. Can you guys speak to that a little bit? Like, how was that easy to achieve? Was it hard? Talk about the back end stuff.
I will give that straight to Darren.
I would love to talk about this one. Thank you for the tech question. Yes.
Details.
All right, a couple of things in there. Seamless loading tech, or as Maria called it yesterday, the Airlock loading tech. It's kind of allows us to build the world with maps that can be vertically stacked, for instance, like the Zaralak caverns we had in 10.2. So we're creating a transition period that, while it's happening, we're seamlessly loading into the next zone, which is new for World of Warcraft. It's really allows you to have that seamless transition, and we're building on that with War Within to have this island on the surface, vertically stacked, ringing deeps below. Then you transition into Hallowfall and down to Azj-Kahet. So this all comes together with dynamic flight, where you jump from the surface and you can fly all the way down through the bottom, through the depths. Traditionally, the game it's kind of a 2D game, right? We've experimented with 3D gameplay, but the way we build the world is 2D. This allows us to do these 3D stacked levels. You've seen this in dungeons before, but we haven't really seen it in zones and continents. So that's really exciting. You mentioned kind of the seamless part of servers there as well. So that's technology we've been building on for years, including the Warbands piece of this, like expanding what was traditionally tied to your realm, character data, to your whole account, so BattleNet data, so we can do things like the shared bank. We've done account-wide collections in the past, but this is just expanding the tech to more and more systems, so we can break down those barriers, so you can play with whoever you like.
I do remember when flying was introduced to Warcraft, it wasn't in Azeroth all 100%, yet it is now. But is it the same challenges with Dragonflight? Like, is it the same kind of back-end technical stuff you have to do to make it work in the Eastern Kingdoms and Kelmador?
Yeah, during the Cataclysm, which obviously is coming to Classic now, but one of the big things in the Cataclysm was rebuilding the world so it could be explored by flight from the air, from a game that was never, from areas that were never built to be explored from the air. When Burning Crusade was released, that was built for flight for the start. So that part of it we have solved. One of the things that dragon riding allows you to do is fly, when you get up to speed, so much faster, right? Right, yeah. So, when we were building the Dragon Isles, we had that in mind when we were talking about loading creatures as you fly around the world, terrain. This is our max speed we intend to hit on dragon riding. So, and Dragon Isles is kind of one of our most dense, best looking zones, right? We're always building that, pushing more detail out of it, making it look better, more polygons. So in terms of the technical limitations to the old world, it's not there. We can drag a ride. We just want to kind of release that to players in a way that makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
We put this thing out in Dragon Isles and players loved it, and we're hoped they would. So now we're making dynamic flight for everyone to new mounts, new zones, and Ian announced today it's coming to everywhere that you can fly. So it may not be day one. Probably seen we've been testing out with Old World or Kalimdor dynamic flight racings, but yeah.
That's also interesting because the Dragon Zone was made for dragon flight, so you have those races. The Eastern Kingdoms wasn't made for that. Even when regular flight was added, there were places that players weren't supposed to go, so stuff was not done all the way, or tucked away in a certain area, or half doesn't have a wall or something like that. So that's a lot of back end work you guys have to go through and make sure that everything feels good and it works. And I don't know how you're gonna implement dragon racing in Kalimdor because it's so old.
There is some dragon racing there, on those kingdoms. You can go and experience that now. So but it's very timed event. So I think it'll just be expanding upon that and finding the right locations and the right places that make sense where you can dive and swoop and find those things. And I think there are locations there that do make sense. But I think shaping it to find those locations is important.
So now I'm going to move into the big thing is hero talents.
Yes.
Let's go into detail about that because people have been clamoring, for generations. But I want to play a Dark Ranger. I want to be a Dark Ranger. But this is your kind of answer to that in a way.
So I am super pumped. So being a UX person, first it was making sure that talent tree fit perfectly within that talent space. And I think we found a nice spot for it. It fits right in the middle and it allows you to expand and collapse. You'll be able to transition back and forth between those. So you'll have the option of 2 for your current spec or your current class, and then you'll be able to change for that spec. And I think what's great about it is that you'll be able to transition depending on what you're playing, PvP or PvE or out in the world. You can seamlessly transition between them the same way you do your specs. So that should be pretty quick. And then also you can collapse down that tree and cycle between the little choice nodes. You'll have a few choice nodes in there. You will fill that tree out, but there will be a couple nodes that you can make choices between. And so you'll be able to do that as well. And that's more for the players who are really deep into the customization of the talents and diving into that. But to your point, the fantasy part of it, me specifically, I play a shaman, so being able to be totemic sounds pretty awesome. You get to have that, and you get to tell that story, and you get to kind of be that person. I know that you have something that you want to be with your warrior.
Yeah, I play a Fury Warrior. Since I started in Lich King, I started my alt warrior, and I love warrior. And then the Titan's Grip, the big two-handed weapons, that is my fantasy. And I always thought I was Mirrodin, from Warcraft 3, the dwarf. So I'm really excited for Mountain Thane warrior. So I have those lightning powers augmenting my big two-handed weapons that I'm dual wielding. And, there's that fantasy is really, really cool to me. Internally, we've seen some videos of, the abilities, or we've played some of them. And, and I think the tree is mostly there's some active buttons on it, but it's mostly passive, right? And you'll get to explore as you level to level 80, kind of the tree, but you'll have it all filled out as you go. So Warrior has a lot of buttons. I like pressing them a lot. I don't need more, but I know some people's want. Yes, fulfills that fantasy. I have 2 big weapons, and I'm doing AOE damage all over the place.
All that lightning and thunder.
Now, and now when I say this question, I know nothing in game development is ever easy. But is it easier for the team to do something like hero talents and add a completely new spec to something like a mage or a warrior or a shaman?
I don't know if it's necessarily easier or harder. It's just different work. It's like adding a new spec or a class. That's one path you can go down, whereas this is going to touch across multiple areas and has multiple things that you're playing with. So I couldn't say that one is more or less harder than the other, but again, I'm not a character designer, so exactly. I couldn't say on that specifically.
One of the things that I've just been hearing around is with the hero talents is time mage. Something people have been wanting that aspect forever. Is that something that we'll be able to explore in hero talents for those mage players out there?
I don't recall off the top of my head the hero talents for mage. I'm pretty sure it's not time mage, but I think there's a lot of fantasy. Speaking of your outfit there and like kind of that steampunky sort of part of mages. I'm sure we're open to a lot of ideas there, but I haven't heard. There's a lot of cool fantasy in World of Warcraft, right? And the idea for these systems are to be evergreen, and when we have cool ideas in the future, we can expand things like hero talents with new options. But for now, yeah, it's the 2 choices per spec, so which is a bit weirder for druids and demon hunters, but yes.
Yeah. So as WoW has evolved, it's gotten more and more accessible. You've made things easier. Solo. You're bringing back solo experiences to get rewards. But as a UX designer, what are some of the challenges when you're trying to teach someone who's maybe never played the game not to be completely overwhelmed? You guys have a great tutorial, and I'm sure you worked on that as well. But it can still be very daunting to look at a warrior rotation, and be like, what am I supposed to do?
So when we approach that, it's not just a UX problem. We meet up with the gameplay, we meet up with character creation. It's kind of an entire amalgamation of all of us coming together to talk through and work through that. We have a team, a GUR team, which is a games user research team, and they will play with those different classes, those different specs. We take that feedback and we kind of hone it down. So it's very much a team effort working through that. The part that we take on through UX is just making sure that through all that gameplay, we can make sure that you understand how to use it, how you can play it, so that makes sense to you as you're diving in. Those buttons can be there. And then I think having something like when we introduce edit mode, that gives you the opportunity to customize that even more so that you can place the things that you need to in the rotations that you want. And we have things like tutorials, and I think we also have the things that we try to introduce things in a step-by-step process so that you can learn your rotation kind of over those spells or as they're unlocked for you.
This is the first time we've gone into Azeroth before in certain raids and instances like Take a Sim, but this is the first time the content has been underneath Azeroth from like a role-playing spec point. You talked about the 2D building a platform, but what else has that opened up for your team creatively, being able to go underground? Or has it limited you because now you don't have open skies, right? It's supposed to be a, confined environment.
Yeah, definitely want to talk about Hallowfall. This is like when people think underground, right? They think caves, contained spaces, and we were like, so Hallowfall, which is the 3rd zone, is this huge open cavernous space, and the level designers and world builders talked to the engineering team earlier, like, we want to make this feel like an outdoor space. We want a weather system, we want day-night cycle, we want oceans, all this tech which traditionally is for our outdoor world building, bring it interior to a zone. So it has that. It's this huge interior cavern, there's this crystal which lights it, it has a story behind why it's flickering out, but that creates gameplay as well. There's this night-day cycle within there. So, technically, it's really cool amalgamation of the artists, the designers, and engineers that built that zone.
Yeah, and I think it also lets us explore things like delves, right? This new idea, we're going underground, so now we have this other fantasy we can lean into of delving into these little mini bite-sized experiences that you can jump into and have a good time with, and using that airlock tech that we had talked about to kind of transition through things. And I think talking about delves, I'm super pumped about it because someone like me who maybe, as I've been playing WoW since the beginning, I've become a dad, my responsibilities have increased. Exactly, yeah. I don't have time for maybe raid night every time, but then I don't want to miss out on it. And so Delves gives me this opportunity where I can go out, I can participate, get meaningful gear progression towards the end. I mean, up to Mythic 10 plus is what gear I can get. So the nights that I can make raid, I won't feel behind. I'll feel involved. I'm ready to rock. I'm ready to go. And I think it's also great because I can do this with just like one other person or even by myself. So I think it lets us explore that type of a fantasy as well.
Going back to like the delves and the warbands, like, would you think we'll eventually get to the point where we can like have our alts quest with us and have them AI controlled as like if I want a DPS or if I want a tank or if I want to heal? Healing might be tough, but I mean DPS and tank, right? I mean, would you think we'll get to that point where you could like take your whole party of people you've created into a dungeon by yourself and just run it?
Definitely anything is possible, but in Delves, but with Delves, the thing that you will be able to do is you'll have a little partner with you that he'll be able to go in there and you can customize your partner, and the first partner will be Bronzebeard, and he'll be able to come in with you, and you can customize Braun to do different roles for you. So if you want to be more tanky, Braun can support you, or if you want DPS, or you can make Braun play the way that you need to play to help you through that. And so I think, to that point, there's little things that we can do, and definitely the future, there's more things to explore there.
Yeah, and to achieve that, we're working on the tech that makes like an NPC that look like part of your party, right? Yeah. So, we're definitely excited to see how players react to that and where it could go in the future.
The key for every new expansion is the new capital you'll be exploring. The time you spend most of your time gathering your party, selling your stuff, going to the auction house. Well, occasionally if it's not, if it's not Stormwind or whatnot. What's the capital we're going to be spending the most time in the war with?
So it'll be on the Isle of Dorn, and it'll be called Dornogal. It's an earthen city, so it'll have a lot of very miner-centric kind of earthen technology, very stone and gears and forges and things like that. That stuff that you would see the earthen have, and it'll be a really cool-looking city, but it's also on an island, so it's the first part of it. It's on the surface before you go down under the ground, so you'll still be up in the open world, and it's really cool looking.
Yeah, it should definitely feel very unique for that. Like the first zone is its kind of island on its own, and the entrance to the core that the Earthen the Titans created the Earthen to protect and maintain the core to get to the center, to the World Soul. So this island will have that way to get down into the depths. So it should feel pretty unique amongst capital cities. Speaking of Earthen, definitely excited to roll an Horde Dwarf for the first time and get some different facial hair options on different body types. So they're very cool.
That might actually pull me away from a goblin.
I mean, people love dwarves. They love dwarves, and they haven't been getting a lot of love lately. So people were like ecstatic when they found out the new allied race is a dwarf. The tall dwarfs is what people were calling the tall dwarfs. They're the tall dwarfs now. Can you take us into that room? Like, 'cause there's a lot of people who want a lot of different allied races. There's a lot of noise. How do you guys sit down and determine? No, we're doing tall dwarves this one. Like, take us into that mindset in the meeting on whether it's technical or from a UX standpoint, anything like that.
So from a UX standpoint, we mostly approach that just to make sure that as you're going through that process to unlock them, that process is smooth and it makes sense. And as you journey through that, you can get from each of the steps and you understand what you're supposed to do and what you're supposed to accomplish to unlock that. And then again, it's meeting with and making sure we talk with game design, we talk with character development and story and questing, just so that each of those beats make sense. Because as you said, there's lots of different things to unlock, and that process can take some time to get through.
Yeah, and from an engineering perspective, I've worked on a lot of character customization over the years, but in Legion, when the group wanted to add demon hunters, I was working closely with the character artists. It's like, okay, demon hunters we're gonna expand customization in a big way on night elves and blood elves. They'll get horns, tattoos, facial hair. And at that time, it was like, okay, we were building on this technology, but it was like to the story, right? To the theme of the story of the Legion. And the Earthen are similar, right? Like, we're going to this Titan space. The Earthen are creatures of the Titans. And we've been building on character customization since then to allow many more options, many different types of options, separating body types. So it's kind of like the next evolution from that as well. Our character artists now we can do even more stuff. Shadowlands, when we first expanded that to a bunch of other races, that's the first time we kind of really expanded our character customization. So many options, and then we had in mind going forward Drakthir, our next race in Dragonflight, so we could add, when you calculate the permutations, we were looking towards Drakthir coming up next. Like, they were going to be these massively customizable race, and Earthen are, along that vein as well.
I've been interviewing WoW devs for 10 years, and one of the things I think people never realize, and I always ask it, is it's always tough when you add it in a race because it's not just plug and play. There are lots of items, helms, boots, shoulder pads, wrist pads, belts, and sometimes they don't work and require a lot of back-end stuff or a lot of reworking, which is time you don't have. What are some misconceptions when you do add a new race from technical side and you have to make sure that they can, like the Drakthir, I was like, how are they going to have shoulder pads? Sometimes they don't, right? Sometimes the Worgen don't have boots.
Yeah, and obviously they have wings, and they have their more humanoid form as well. So when the early visage form. So when they first were being conceptualized, it was like, okay, we know that form will be more suitable for regular gear, and then we know in Drakthir form, certain 3D models might be more appropriate, like the belts, the shoulders, the tabards. So that was kind of in the design from early on. When we add allied races, it is an advantage to be able to have them still kind of the same form, like earthen are dwarven form. So a lot of the dwarven fitted helms work well with the earthen. There might be some differences with their hairstyles and gems poking out. So those are some of the considerations. Like, is that okay? Usually we do consider that okay because it kind of makes them unique.
And Thrall came out and he's rocking his Warcraft 3 armor. Like, that was really cool. Like, to see that.
And grabbed it.
Yeah, he's like, I've had this for so long. I haven't put it on for so long. And he's growing his dreads. He's got his dreads back. He's got his hair back. He's ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, just to comment on that scene really quickly, I think that cinematic was super meaningful to me because, I mean, if you hearken all the way back to Warcraft 1 and you remember the poster of an orc and a human's head together, that cinematic replays that feeling, but they're not at odds now. And it just, to me, it's a real huge coming around of this, and I just felt like that was so much more impactful for players who maybe been playing for a long time, and I think it hit all kinds of notes where he's trusting him, he puts his sword, steadies his hand. There's just a lot in that I think was really fantastic.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't ask with Chris back, with Menson back, what has that opened up for your team just in general, whether technical or UX or story or art?
So Menson coming back is really cool. He was really an amazing inspiration as a designer coming up, and I think what's really amazing about having Menson come back is that he was very proud of the work that we were doing. Seeing the things that we accomplished as a team in Dragonflight made him feel like, I just want to be involved, and I feel like that is a really, really cool feeling, so that we can all collaborate together, and we get to collaborate with someone who helped build this world. I mean, that's exciting.
Metzen has come back and been in a lot of the brainstorming sessions, and when I talk to our compatriots on the design side, they're like really excited to have that energy there with them, and he's very supportive of all the stories that they've been building, and looking forward to working with him on this World Soulsaga moving forward. And obviously, we saw the reaction of the crowd here at BlizzCon, right? He just brings that kind of energy that we love to share with everyone as well.
Daddy's home. That's basically what he should have said when he came out. So I do want to talk about, with new areas come new animals, new pets, new creatures. What do hunters have look forward to within the War Within in terms of taming new animals and creatures?
Without going into too much specifics, there is a slew. Just like always, bringing in all kinds of new creatures, things that will be under the ground, things that you would see that what would you imagine could live under that ground environments, and what types of creatures would the earthen have around them? What would be involved in that space? I don't know. I think it's going to be a really cool area for hunters.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about the specific creatures that are tameable, but I'm pretty excited for the kobolds to make a big appearance this time around, including their dungeon where the Candle King will be. So what kind of pets would the kobold have? They might be cool to tame.
Yeah, don't take my candle.
Your new expansions were usually approximately around 2 years for 24 months, right? But now you're going to annual releases. Does that affect you guys? You have to work twice as hard for annual releases now, or you guys kind of got a good schedule going on now and you're pretty confident that you'll be able to do it in 12 months for the next 3 expansions, which sounds like a lot of work if you ask me.
I think we have a really good team together, and we're on the right track. We know what we're doing. I think we've been delivering stuff really, really well with Dragonflight, and I feel like we have a good cadence going and we have a good team together, so I'm very confident.
Yeah, I mean, War Within is what we're focused on right now. Nothing too much to announce about future expansions and when they're coming out. But really excited to get that in the players' hands next year.